I was thinking that maybe when you get back, you could come with me. Fuck work, fall in love right now and spend all our money. Jump with me. Jump with me. I've been feeling it buzzing in my fingertips. Wanna try you out. Get lost, get far away, and do what we wanna do now. Jump with me. Jump with me. And I know the odds are always stacked against us. Even though we're young and trying to die. Baby, don't get no. And I know, da 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 da. Ooh, 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 Inspiration is showing, is showing. But yeah, we keep going and going. But it's family forever. We've done it over and over. We ever reach the end? How do we get through the night? Do we have to fight? Awake ourselves to spark the willing night. Maybe we can redefine what it means to get in time. Now we take the chance to fight the fight we seek.
Alright, it's Mark, and it's time to start our live show. You'll notice that I'm not using Alexa to do our intro. She's been kind of temperamental lately and not listening, but our sponsor for this week is the Armor Benders Armature Kits, which you can find in our online store. They are really great armatures. They're made from brass and phosphor bronze, as well as aluminum. And if you guys are interested, check it out at stopmotionstore.com. And okay, so let's get started. So this week, I'm going to work on making some colors, some clay for our mother character. And I'm also thinking of kind of re-sculpting the head here. Not the head, the sort of scarf that she wears. This is really plain, kind of simple and boring looking, and it doesn't really look as nice as the face. So I might re-sculpt this in some way. And we also had to sculpt the left and right side for her body as well. Now, this is really simple, this sculpture, so we are trying to keep things a bit simple, just for this sake of taking too much time to make it. And so, yeah, my nose is kind of itchy for some reason. So we've got our clay here, and it's a sort of pinkish color, and we've got some purple. I think these are the two colors I used to make this color. And so I'm going to mix these two up and see how it goes. Yeah, I think I see a streak of this color in here on the side of her skirt. So, okay, let me cut this up. Where is my tool at? So anyway, hopefully you guys are having a good week. It's been a little bit hectic in my life, to say the least. I'm just really busy with stuff, busy with work. I've got 3 sculpting job clients that I'm trying to please. I don't know where I put my one tool at here. Where is that? There it is. Looking for this. Clean this off a bit first. That's my wife calling me at the start of my show. Everybody needs Mark. Okay. Hey Janet, welcome to the show. So we need to make the color of this. And like I said, I'm pretty sure it's these two colors. And I want to make enough of it to where I could make at least a few of her dresses. Because I need a left to right and also replacements because she's going to be walking around. So her body kind of needs to have like a squash and stretch kind of thing where she kind of bobbles around. And like I said, she's pretty simple because she's got no feet, she's got no legs, to speak of, and that's most of the characters are that way. Just because, like I said, we want to make sure everything is simplified for our film, not overly simplified, but to the point where we're not going to spend hours and hours on each replacement, because then it would just take forever. Now, if I had a crew, that would be awesome. I would definitely make things a lot more complex and detailed, but I think so far, we've made a lot of progress. I mean, we've got the King character is done. We've got the little kids, their faces, and I made a mold of their bodies and everything, so it should work in our favor time-wise. I don't really have a schedule or a due date or anything like that for this stuff, but we want to make sure that, because one of the things that I've always done making films is I've always been too ambitious. It's kind of how I am with almost everything. I kind of have something in my head, and I want to get it done and make it, and then I regret, later on, like, oh, I didn't finish it. But sometimes, if you put too much on yourself, you'll never get things done. So, anyway, what I'm doing here is I just take some of this clay, cut it up, press it into this clay, and I'm putting it through a pasta roller over on the side here. As I roll it through, it's like this, and then I fold it over, fold it over, fold it over, so kind of roll it up and flatten it. You can see some of the oils and everything inside the clay. This looks pretty gross, but this clay, I don't know if this is Avalon. This might be Avalon clay here. And it's really old, and so all of the clay is, the oils are separating in the clay. And they sort of rise to the top, and it seems gross, but you want to mix that in there. As you can see, we're pretty close, actually, in the color that we need with this. Let's kind of compare the two. So I probably added too much of the purple, which is okay because I've got more of this sort of pinkish purple. Not sure what is the color of this called? I forget now. So have you guys been working on any projects out there? Janet, you're always talking about possibly working on stuff. Have you decided to yet? Maybe, just to have fun and sculpt something? Alright, so I'm going to try and flatten out this piece here. The clay's a little bit firm and stiff because it's been sitting around for probably, I don't know how many years. So all this mixing up reconditions the clay, which is, mixes the oils back in, kind of softens it a little bit just by mixing it up. So not yet? Oh, okay. Alright, so I flattened all that in with the pasta machine. Just going to kind of fold it up. There it is. I'm going to roll it through again. So I think we'll probably be a little bit closer to what we're aiming for after this gets mixed through thoroughly. One of my friends, Webster, is working on some project which is, I think, going to have some 2.5D characters like this in his film. He's got a film called Mad Doctors of Borneo, and he's also like transferring film footage to digital using a company that scans the images of your film one frame at a time. Basically just takes pictures like with a regular camera where you have a CCD, and what they do is they put the film through this like machine, and it's sort of the same principle as a DSLR camera. And so each frame kind of, they shine light through the film and then snap a picture. And the quality is really good. And a lot of us, who have been working in film and animation for a long time, we have a lot of old film, reels and negatives and prints and things like that, which are lost simply because you can't really transfer that stuff, easily. It's not so simple to do, and it's expensive. Unlike with digital, photography today, everybody just takes pictures with their cell phones, and there's no cost involved with that. And in the old days, it was pretty difficult. But he transferred some film footage, I guess, some of his old animation where he's got this sort of zombie character in the same theme as this, this kind of style. It looks really cool. But I think he's planning to use that for his Mad Doctors project, which is a lot of fun too. Okay, so Janet is saying that she's slowly finding people to work on her film. That's nice. Hey, you want to know something, Janet? There's a studio in Poland. I think it's a studio or a school. I guess it was a school. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's a school. They are asking for one of our armature kits, and they're in Poland. And I thought of you. I'm like, oh, there's actually like people teaching animation there. I can tell you who it is really quick. Let me look here in my email. I'll tell you. Because I know you live in Poland, so maybe you'd be interested. Is it a school? I'm not actually sure now. His name is Victor Prawo, and he's in Ostrowek. Ostrowek, Poland. So there's definitely some animators out there, you know, and some of them, I mean, Poland has a lot of animators, don't they? Stop motion. They've got, what's the name of that studio now? There's at least one big studio, and I'm just thinking, let's see what that looks like. That's pretty darn close, isn't it? Alright, so we're done with this. This is done. We now have our clay for all of her replacement clothes. So Janet says, I know one musician, screenwriter, 3 future hand-drawn animators, and 1 man who promotes movies. Awesome. Alright, so now we've got our clay. Put our clay over here. Okay, so I think I want to redraw or resculpt this a little bit here. I want to make this look nice. It just looks too flat, I think. What do you guys think? It's kind of flat looking. And for her left and right side, I think I want to make, oops. I want to make this more, what do I want to make it exactly? It has to look like it's going in one direction. So I think I want to have, because it's like a scarf, like a headscarf, so maybe like a little wrinkle here of some kind, just to kind of show that it's cloth and wrapped around. Maybe like this. And for the front, I'm just gonna, let's take this off here. Same principle, but I think I'm gonna round it off, round most of this stuff towards the sides, as opposed to this sort of angular. I know I drew it this way, but it just doesn't look nice to me. So I'm gonna kind of round this a bit, have more of a curvature, and this side will be the same as the other side. Or not exactly. I don't want it to be precisely opposite. So it looks like I've used Photoshop or something to, like, you know, mirror both sides or anything. Or CG, because CG tends to be like that, you know, like you can sculpt stuff where it's mirrored and it looks so symmetrical. I don't want that. So I think this would be alright like this. So I'll just kind of like that, so that looks like her face kind of comes in front here, and then with this one, kind of the same thing. I'll kind of come in like that. And so this would be like a little fold here. And that would look a lot nicer. So that's what we're going to do. Alright, so, like I say, I've got my clay. And what I want to do is I want to sort of get it to this thickness here. So I'm going to roll some out. Just cut it off here like this. And also, remember the things that I did before, one of my previous shows was I wrote on here teeth. I drew on the clay. I don't know if you can see that. I don't think it'll focus. Let me see. Well, anyway, it does say teeth. I've also got, this one says lips. And this one I'm going to put on here mother. So MOTHER number 1. That way I can always remember that this is the precise color for her body. It's a very simple but important trick. See here, actually. This one. How do I want that? Maybe more like that. Not too bulgy. There we go. Okay. So I'm just gonna flatten out some clay. Hey, Lego nerd. Yep. Yeah, I guess Arabic or not really sure. My the original intent with this scarf is not really so much Arabic with the headscarf. He's actually supposed to be more like a peasant from, when there used to be kings and queens and stuff like that. So not really meant to be Muslim or anything. It's just kind of a generic peasant-like look. Alright, so I've got this. I've rolled it out and I'm kind of folding it over. I think that the thickness, it's about the right thickness for what I want. Yeah, in the Dark Ages, a lot of women used to wear scarves like this. Okay, so let's see, where's my knife? Here it is. I'm just going to kind of go over here and round this out a bit. Up here. So I'm going to transfer this shape onto our new clay. Reason being, it's a little bit thicker, so that when I cut this out, I can round it and give it just a little bit more depth to the shape itself. Like I say, this is just too flat, and I don't like having these kind of angular edges on here either. It's not as pleasing to the eye as round shapes, more round shapes. So carefully, there we go. Hey, Hoser Lou. Okay, so now it's almost a little too thick. Or is it? Let's maybe not. If it is, it's not a big deal. Let's round this off. MicroNerd says, Anime Clay, how can I send you a letter or photo or package? If you visit our online store, there's a contact area, and it should have our address. So stopmotionstore.com is the URL for that. So I live in Missouri, USA. So I don't remember where you come from, but that's might be expensive to ship something here if you live really far away. Alright, so here is this sort of headscarf thing. Let's put her face on there. That looks pretty good. Now I'm going to also indent, I think, this center area. This will give it even more depth where her head kind of sits inside of it a bit. And I think this is going to look really good compared to what we had before. Let's see. Let's smooth out these edges a bit again. Dig out the center part. Oh yeah, Janet is saying that it's expensive to ship from Poland to America. It's very expensive. Not to mention that there's like taxes and all kinds of stuff. Every country is different. Like if I ship to a country, sometimes when the customers in other countries pick up their packages, they'll go to their post office or whatever it is, and they will say, you need to pay us taxes on it, and sometimes it's not only shipping that you pay for all the crazy laws, tax laws that are in place. I think this looks pretty good. Alright, maybe I can see if I can get a close-up for you guys here. There is the new shape. Here was the old. Let me put one of her other faces on there. So kind of flat, and then more shapely. So I think this is much more pleasing, the second one. Alright, so now let me just make sure that this is not too large. I could probably cut down on these sides a bit. Just a little bit too wide. The nice part about these is that I can just use these and replace the face part in the center. It makes it really simple. Simple is good. Oop, it's not good though. Not too sure about the squash and stretch part though. I might need to make some of these face scarves, which are longer and shorter, like for this one, so that everything moves together. Otherwise it might look a little bit weird, but that won't be hard to do. Alright, so I'm going to probably just shape these for now, and then I'm going to smooth them all together. Oops. Okay, so that's the front. Now for the sides. So I repeat the same process, so I'm going to use the same colored clay, of course. I'm going to roll this through the pasta machine. Yeah. Well, America is not as conservative as Poland. You know, there's some differences. I think some of the most conservative countries would be like Japan, Poland. Let's do this. I'm going to trace the shape onto the clay here. Yeah, I wouldn't mind visiting Poland. My dad's been to, he was born in Poland, and then he's visited Poland as well. He went to the, there's like a underground salt mine, which is really famous in Poland, where the whole place is carved, like by artists, with religious, religious symbols and just a lot of really cool stuff inside there. You know, large columns, and so it's amazing what you can sculpt into salt, you know. I know there were floods. I think there were floods, and it got partially destroyed, and it was in the news. You know, they were trying to, I think, save that place. Save all the artwork. But I think salt is really a soft medium. Like, you know, if it gets wet, it gets ruined and it cracks easily. So I don't think it's designed to last forever, but of course, when you make something that amazing, you want it to. Yep, a lot of patriotic people. That's true. I don't know if I mentioned this on any of my my previous shows, but they discovered, because I was just talking about how long a sculpture lasts in salt, which is not very long. They discovered that the Romans used to use concrete for most of their buildings and stuff, and like aqueducts, and I don't know about pillars, but I think the Roman Colosseum, I think, probably used a lot of concrete. So it's lasted for how many years? You know, their concrete structures. I think it's, you know, easily 2,000 years plus. Not sure if maybe 2,500 years. You know, because they were being built up as a country for a long time. So some of their oldest structures might be like 2,500 years old, let's say. Rough guesstimate. And so it's still, a lot of that stuff still exists to this day. And I was thinking, you know, if you wanted to make a sculpture that lasts that long, you know, you would want to know like how do they make that concrete? What is the secret to that? And so they recently discovered that they would make concrete out of materials that were, you know, similar to what you'd make concrete out of today. But the secret was that they would take volcanic ash and rock and mix it in with their concrete. And what would happen is that the concrete would absorb water, and sometimes they would pour literally pour salt water on their concrete. And what that would do is it would create a crystal structure. So they actually use salt as part of it, you know, as part of the formula, in order to create a, well, I don't know if they actually knew that they were doing this or not, and then it would actually make their concrete last for 2,000 years. But inside of the crystal structure, due to the salt as well as the volcanic rock, if there was a crack that ever forms in the concrete, so let's say, for example, today you get a pothole in your road or something like that, you know, concrete road. Well, if you had volcanic ash in there, new crystal structures would form that actually close the gap and self-heal the concrete. But I don't know if salt was the main, you know, one of the reasons it worked like that, but I know for sure it was the volcanic ash. I forget what they actually call it. It's like vermiculite or something like that. But it's really cool how they figured that out so long ago. Let's see. So this I can scoop out. How far? Something like this, I guess. So Janet says, for me, sculpting is hard because I have one problem, but I'm too shy to say they're in public. Ah, okay. Well, maybe sculpting would be good for you, though, you know? Maybe it would help that issue that you have. I don't know. Alright, so let's just make sure I'm on the right track here. So I think I need to sculpt out or carve out more up here. There we go. See, I want to make sure I carve out some of this area, but I don't want to carve out too much. purpose of carving it out is to see this edge around here that's rounded around her face, so it looks like her face is somewhat set into the headpiece. It just needs to be deep enough for that. But I don't want to make it too thin, because if I do that, I'll risk going through the clay. Just gotta be careful. Yeah, sure, Janet. If you want to, that's fine. My stomach is growling. Alright, so let's see what this looks like here. It's not too bad. I think that you can see like a rounded edge now. Maybe just on this side I need to probably raise this up a little. So I need to add some clay there. About right here. I think this will work. After sculpting in digital for a while, because I'm working on another sculpture for one of my clients, I'm working in ZBrush, and sculpting this way it's really, you know, it's so different from digital. Just it has like a different feel to it, and how it feels to actually sculpt. It's kind of weird. It's a lot nicer in some ways, especially knowing that, you know, when you sculpt on the computer, it doesn't happen often or anything, but there's always a chance that you sculpt and then your computer locks up or something, or you press the wrong button on your keyboard and then your work is, you know, lost. Maybe you could work on something for, you know, 25 minutes or something like that and not save for a while, not save your progress, and something goes wrong and everything is gone. So with this, it's pretty nice because you sculpt it and then it's permanent. So there we go. I don't have to worry about losing my work. Okay, so simple, but pretty nice, I think. So we got that side, we got the forward. Let's look at this here. So I'm going to add same sort of line underneath. Maybe round this a little bit here. And I think I'm also going to add just a little bit of clay on the top part here. Top of her head. Maybe I should deepen this hole. I want to make it seem like her face is actually in there, you know? Probably deepen it just a little more. And I'm contemplating if I should make a mold of this. Because I know I can reuse these, but yeah, maybe if these become unusable after a lot of animation, maybe I'll make a mold of it and recast it. Yeah, we've had Hurricane Irma or Irma, whatever it was, and then we've got another one. I think it's Jose coming up. So, a lot of my friends that are in Florida, some of them are okay, and then there's some that I haven't heard from. So I don't know, but I think there's a lot of damage. A lot of flooding and water, and then more hurricanes coming in. So at least one more, and maybe more after that. Depends on what Mother Nature wants to do. It's really unpredictable. The problem is that, like if you boil water, how, well, the hotter the water is, right? The more the more steam you get off the water. It's a really simple thing. Heat up anything. Heat up water. Heat up. Let's see here. How does that look like that? Not too bad. But it's really simple science. The hotter it is, the faster water evaporates. And so the oceans are warmer. There's more warm water in the oceans. And because of that, of course, there's more moisture. And because there's more moisture in the air, every time a hurricane comes by, it drops a lot more water on whatever it goes over. It's a really simple thing. So has a lot to do with global warming. Just everything's getting hotter, and so the air can hold more of that moisture, and it just does tremendously more damage the hotter it gets. And the last hurricane we had was the largest ever recorded in history. So if it's already that bad, if it gets worse, the hurricanes are going to get even stronger and really do even more damage. And I think a lot of people that live in places like Texas and Florida are probably going to want to move out. I don't think they're going to want to live there after that kind of thing. So much damage was done, and I think in Texas they didn't have much in terms of government regulations, which is where they have building codes and they say you can do this and do that. You can build in this area, you can't build in that area. And they do that in a lot of places, a lot of states, because it makes it safer, So if they want to protect their citizens, they make sure they don't put a building right at the water's edge where they know that it'll flood. They want to make sure that people don't have that problem. But in Texas, they didn't do that so much. So there, a lot of damage was done, and people's houses had water that was literally 3 feet deep inside their house. Let's see here. So a hurricane had your name, Dagmara? Okay. There's so many hurricanes, and there's also they call them typhoons if you're in Asia. So my wife is from the Philippines, and so if there's a typhoon, you know, they have a name for those as well. And what they do with the names of hurricanes is they go alphabetically. So it's always like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. They'll do it like that, which is why we had Hurricane Irma, and then the next one is Jose, which starts with a J. So I and then J. And then the next one would be with a K. So, you know, the next one might after that might be like Hurricane Kim, or yeah, how many names start with K? Kathy, Hurricane Kathy, maybe. Karen. Okay, so the rough shape. Cut this out. I wonder who has the job of giving hurricanes names anyway. Who comes up with it? And how much do they get paid per hour to work on that? It's like, oh, it's Hurricane, you know, Scott. By the time you get to Z, it's like, what do you name it? Hurricane, you know, Zelda? Maybe Zelda? Not too many names begin with Z and X. X especially. I think X would be the hardest. There's like Xavier, Javier. I can't really think of too many. Alright, so same concept here with this one. Making the opposite of this one. And I'm going to maybe, let's see here. Round this back part off. Go. Ah, okay, so you get floods in Poland. Yeah, we get floods here too where we live. Our neighbor to our left where we live, there's a creek that runs by their house. It's not really a creek, it's a man-made sort of ditch where water goes. It's supposed to flow out into, you know, like sewers somewhere. Or actually it's not even sewers, it's like a there's like a drainage ditch that they made, which is really large. It's like a whole field that's dug out, you know, and then all the water can go into it. And so sometimes, or they used to have it where their house almost floods, you know, because the water would go up in that creek, and it wasn't flowing properly. And some of the neighbors had to complain to the city about it because they were saying, you know, look, our houses are getting flooded and our garages are getting filled with water. You know, so a lot of people were upset about that, but they actually fixed it and it hasn't been too much of an issue. But if we get a really huge downpour, the water inside there flows really super fast and it's deep. You know, it's like maybe I'm gonna say at least 3 or 4 foot deep at the deepest point. So if you were to fall inside there, you would be swept really far away. Let's see. To add some more clay on the bottom here. Add some there. That will look pretty nice. Okay, so time is almost up already. Wow, time goes by quick. So I guess after I work on this, next week we're going to have to work on her left and right side body for different shots where she's, you know, going left to right or right to left. And then I think probably the week after that we'll probably need to work on some replacement head scarves and scarves and bodies for like maybe a walk cycle, which I think I'm trying to think how many bodies will I need for a walk cycle on each side. Maybe I wonder if I can get away with like 3 for each and shoot it on 2s or something. Kind of trying to think like maybe how would I even animate it? Maybe I should have like when she walks, she kind of waddles, you know, back and forth. Kind of like a penguin. Thinking some sort of like a fast walk, you know, like she doesn't just walk slowly. It's going to be like, so how many? It would be like probably 4 steps per second, and then that, if I did 4 steps per second, yeah, I could probably get away with just a few replacements, not very many. What I might try to do is draw on paper the cycle, and when I do so, you know, pre-animate it, see how it looks, and then if I like it, make it in clay. I think that would be the best way to go about it. But we'll see when I get to that point when I decide. Alright, so this definitely needs to be hollowed out more here. So Janet says the worst we have problem like Texas. Some people build houses in retention tanks. Ah, is that what they call them in Poland? Retention tanks? Yeah. Yeah, if you build too close to anything like that, it's going to be dangerous. Unless you build your house on stilts. And even then, it's kind of like... I know in Texas, I saw some houses, they were built on stilts, but half the house was built on the ground. So I guess they try to predict what's going to happen and build accordingly, but it doesn't really work out very well. Because still half your house is on the ground and getting flooded. I used to live in Pennsylvania, and our house flooded simply because we had a basement, and when it would rain, we were at the bottom of a hill, and so all the water kind of flowed down past our house into a creek. And when it would rain really hard, the basement was below the water table. What that means is that underground there's a certain level that the water is at when it flows. And there's like rock and stuff under there, and so sometimes water flows through the ground and comes out either as a spring or at a creek. And so our house the basement part was below that particular level, and we had a sump pump, which is like a pump that turns on. There's a hole in the back part of the basement, and the hole goes down a little bit below the water level. And when the water starts to rise, there's a hollow plastic ball that would float on top of this water as it goes up. And if the water got too high, this ball would rise up and trigger a switch that turned on a pump. So it was automatic. If ever the water got too high, the pump turns on and water goes out and your basement doesn't flood. Well, one time this ball that floats on the water got stuck and our basement flooded. And it happened twice, and it was a real hassle to clean up. Your furniture gets wet, and you gotta move everything really quickly, and you try to quickly take like a pot or some kind of a bowl or whatever, and you fill it up, and then you pour it down the sink, and then keep repeating that over and over and over again. Yeah, flooding is no fun, but it happens for sure. You can't really escape Mother Nature, even if you're in a house. She always finds a way. Alright, so these look pretty good, I think. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop now, and then so next week we're going to smooth all this stuff out, and we're going to work on these bodies. So I do appreciate you guys coming by again and hanging out while I work on all this stuff. And looking at it, I might make this headscarf smaller. I might cut into this a bit, but you can sort of see what we've accomplished here already. Quite a lot. Alright, well anyways, thanks for coming by, everybody. I will see you all next week.